Milley's tenure was extraordinary. He did a great job. He has served honorably, and he deserves our praise and thanks. And he does not deserve what he's receiving from President Trump right now.
You mentioned this new reporting. There is a new piece in The Atlantic, and part of that says that Milley has told friends that he expects if Trump does return to the White House, which he's obviously trying to do, that the newly elected president will come after him. And Milley has reportedly told people, quote, he'll start throwing people in jail and I'd be on the top of the list. Do you think that's a justified concern?
Look, I think it's a legitimate fear. If you recall from my memoir that you mentioned at the top, I cite a circumstance where the president, egged on by his close advisors, wanted to call back to active duty Admiral McRaven and General McChrystal to court-martial them for some things that they allegedly said in the public domain. And Milley and I had to talk the president out of doing that for any number of reasons. So is it possible that a new loyalist sitting around Trump in the Oval Office will say, let's call up Milley? Yeah, it's quite likely. Now, the good news is if there's a silver lining in all this is Trump's kind of poisoned a well. I don't know that a jury could or anybody would find that he could be given what we would call command influence, that such a thing could happen. But nonetheless, I think it's a legitimate fear. The president's also said that a second term would be about retribution, right? So I think these are all legitimate concerns.
But can we just take a moment? And I mean, you were his Pentagon chief. The former defense secretary is saying that it is a legitimate fear that the former commander-in-chief, who is seeking to be the commander-in-chief again, would want to seek retribution against someone like General Milley simply because he doesn't like the way that tenure is being reported in books and in articles.
Yeah, and I think simply also because the way Milley conducted himself, which was to offer candid, frank advice. If it wasn't what the president wanted to hear because of what Milley was saying, or he didn't want to hear what I was saying, look, he doesn't like that. He wants to find yes men in his office. And so, yeah, he would do that. It's hard for me to believe I'm saying that as well. I wish I didn't have to say that. But if I didn't have the experience in the Oval Office with President Trump seriously wanting to call back to active duty McChrystal and McRaven to court-martial them, I would be less certain. But unfortunately, it is what it is.
They are absolutely panicked, gang. I mean, take a look at this from New York Magazine. The headline reads, Trump wants his enemies to fear for their lives. I mean, this is like stages of grief kind of thing. First, they thought it was absolutely impossible for Trump to ever stage a successful comeback, right? Denial, right? That's what we've been told the last 2 years, 24/7, nonstop. There's no way Trump would ever hope to win again. The whole world hates him. He's an insurrectionist, J6, racist. And then the polls started coming out for the GOP nomination. And simply put, we've never seen anything like it. We've never seen an open primary where one candidate is beating the other candidates by more than all of their support combined. We've literally never seen that. And then the horror of all horrors, the ABC Washington Post poll over this last weekend that showed Trump stomping Biden by 10 points. That was it, gang. That officially sent the legacy media into a total and complete meltdown. So they went from denial to then a panicked frenzy. And now, like we're seeing with those lunatic guests on CNN or New York Magazine, now they're starting to basically beg for mercy. They're recognizing that not only is Trump poised to win and win in a landslide blowout, but that win is only going to embolden him to unleash retribution against all of his political enemies, most especially the legacy media. But the irony in all of this is that in going through these stages of grief, liberal Democrats and the legacy media, they're only revealing just what level of lunatics they really are. Take, for example, New York Magazine flipping out over President Trump accusing Mark Milley, woke Milley, of treason. Trump took to Truth Social and excoriated Milley for going behind his back and contacting Chinese officials after J6. Trump said that such a treasonous act like that in any other period of time would have been punishable by death. New York Magazine had an absolute meltdown over Trump saying that, over the fact that anyone of political stature would accuse the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of treason. But of course, that's precisely what liberal politicians and pundits have been accusing Trump of nonstop 24/7 for the last 7 years. This is exactly the argument that's being made desperately to try to keep Trump off the ballot in 2024. He's guilty of treason, sedition, insurrection. You don't have to look any further than the freaking Washington Post. Can this headline get any more explicit? These people are so self-unaware, and they can't even see how pathetically hypocritical they look. Think about it. These guys, these panicked, desperate, woke leftists, are all scared to death that Trump is going to get into power again and inflict on them the very same weaponized lawfare they've been unleashing on him. What gives? I mean, this hypocritical lunacy has to go beyond the mere stages of grief. Well, in fact, it does. And I'm going to show you exactly how. But first, gang, how many UFC fans do we have out there? We know the one and only Donald J. Trump is a huge UFC fan, as are the fighters of him. But have you ever wondered what they do to manage their pain? Well, you don't have to, because a fellow patriot and good friend of this channel is precisely the one who provides that relief. And he's here to do the same for you. And we all know as we age, aches and pains are normal, but they don't have to be. And that's where the groundbreaking medical scientist Clint Winters comes in. You've seen Clint on Fox. You've seen him on this channel. He's a world-renowned health expert who's unveiled a natural pain reliever that's taking the world by storm. It's called ConoCB2. It's the 100% drug-free way to get full-body pain relief, but without all the dangerous meds, and it is the official pain reliever for the fighters in the UFC. And the best part, gang, is ConoCB2 has no documented side effects after years of private testing. It's absolutely the future pain relief. So whatever you do, gang, make sure to click on that link below right now and check out Clint's amazingly informative report on how ConoCB2 is changing lives by providing safe and powerful relief at a fraction of the cost of pain pills. Click on that link below right now. A couple of days back in another video, we talked about a phenomenon known as projection. That's accusing others of the very crimes you yourself commit, right? Virtually every one of these woke leftists excoriating Trump for accusing others of treason are themselves guilty of accusing Trump of treason. Virtually every one of these lamestream media types lamenting Trump is going to weaponize the law against us have been cheerleading the weaponization of the law against him. This is what's called projection. It's ascribing to others the very sins of which you yourself are guilty. Now, some consider it a kind of Freudian effort, an almost atheist version of confession or medieval penance. So in other words, they know, these woke leftists know what they're doing is evil, and they're looking for some kind of scapegoat to impute their sins to and have those sins punished. But of course, because they're so pathetically narcissistic, that punishment, by definition, has to involve someone else other than them. And so this is where projection comes in. In other words, when they project, they admit that what they are actually doing is evil. They admit it's wrong and worthy of being purged. But because they're so narcissistic, that purging can't involve them. So they project their sins onto others. That's basically the psychology behind projection. Now, that said, you can be assured that their fears about Trump are very well-founded. Make no mistake, Trump most assuredly is coming after his political opponents. But the difference here is that he's going to use their political and legal weaponization against them. That's the nature of retribution. This is a counter-offensive, whereas the woke left are the ones who are guilty of crossing the Rubicon and actually going through with something that had never happened in the history of our nation, indicting a former president. They have only themselves to blame for this retribution that's about to come upon them. And by the way, Republican voters are all for it. There's nothing Republican voters want to see more than Trump unleashed against woke Democrats. That is one of the chief reasons why he's surging in the primary polls, and it's one of the chief reasons why the enthusiasm for his campaign is off the charts. So yes, the woke left had better heed their own advice. If you're a liberal Democrat, it's time to be very, very afraid. Hey, gang, I know what it's like to feel alone out there in these turbulent times, but I broke free. If you too have been looking for a community with like-minded patriots who are serious about resisting globalism, building a parallel economy, and having intelligent and deep fellowship on a regular basis, then you've come to the right place. In my Courageous Patriot Insiders community, we're building a close-knit movement of, by, and for patriots who are breaking free from the outrage and despair cycles of the mainstream media and taking on the fight against globalism. Every week, I deep dive into the content I can't share on big tech and give you the cliff notes on the truth of how patriots just like you are building up their communities, starting patriot businesses, and fighting the woke in both public and private. All with a few history and political lessons from yours truly, of course. If you want to stop feeling alone as a patriot and stand together with this fast-growing community, be sure to click on the link in the description below. Don't wait. Join me and my Patriot Coalition today, and let's get fighting.